Good evening, 49er faithful. Welcome to another episode of the live 49ers Mailbag. I am your host, Rob Schuh. Excited to be back. It's been a couple of days since I streamed last. That's unusual for me. Typically, it is a regular occurrence, and just had a guest in town, my best friend, his young time with them. Had to take some time away to refresh myself, to focus on me. That's important. If you haven't taken time for yourself recently, do it. Take some time, recharge. Now is the perfect time to make it happen because there's not a whole heck of a lot going on for the 49ers, but we're going to get to your important questions today. I'm very excited. This is the mailbag. So if you've seen it before, you know how it operates. If you haven't, here's the general layout. I have a bunch of previously submitted questions. I throw out the question on Twitter in the morning on Tuesdays, and I get responses. I also get submissions in my Gmail at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Got about 14 questions in today, so we're going to fit those into the program. And I want those that are here live in the chat. I already see some of you hanging out there, putting questions in already. If you're in the chat, put in @Rob or @RobSchuh when you have a question. That way, when I'm scrolling through the chat, I know which ones are questions directed at me that you would like to have answered live here on the program. It looks like we do have our first guest that popped in before the show started was Lil Dallas Cowboy. Says Cowboy fan here, but a huge fan of the league. Bang, bang. What's good, fam? Hey, as long as you are here for friendly nature, I freaking love it. Absolutely love it. AJB with some jokes. Got some jokes. At least we don't have Jimmy. Oh, wait a minute. Philip coming in. Philip's got a question in this mailbag. I'll be getting to it. But first he asks, what date will Frank Gore be a 49er again? I'll be quoting Frank in a little bit in my answer to another Frank Gore question that comes in later, a previously submitted question from one of the listeners. And he says pretty directly that it's probably going to be a couple of months before he actually signs with the 49ers. So that's my guess. A couple of months. Raphael 562, a sneakerhead here on the channel, dropping in to say hello. What's up, Rob and everyone? Luke Walsh doing the same. Hi, Schuh and the gang. Victor coming in. What up, Rob? Alan, one of our sneakerheads coming in, @Rob Schuh. How's your Tuesday going? Is Frank Gore a first ballot Hall of Famer? Alan, my Tuesday is going well. Got in a solid workout today, feeling refreshed. Just had my best friend in town, spent some awesome time with he and his daughter. Fantastic weekend, got out and about. There's some sunshine happening here in Portland. For those that don't know, yes, I'm up in Portland, Oregon. And so this is a beautiful time of year. The flowers are coming out. The cherry blossoms are out. Some of them have already passed. It's a short window for those cherry blossoms, let me tell you. But it's going well, and I will get to the Frank Gore question. That's one of the previously submitted questions. So, Alan, I'm going to get to that in just a little bit. David Williams coming in to say hello. Hello, David, and we are off. So if you're here and you enjoy the content, do me a favor. It's the off-season. Hit the like button. It should be like the first thing. You roll in, you hit the like button if you like the content. If you do. If you don't, then just hate watch it. That's fine. That's totally fine. But if you enjoy it, hit that like button. It helps me amplify the message. More and more people get to see it, especially after a weekend where I was off and I wasn't feeding the YouTube algorithm. So I will get into the previously submitted questions. I see those of you in the chat rolling in with the live questions, and I love it. Let's go to that first previously submitted question. This one coming in from D Case. D-Case, as always, some of these are lightly edited so that they fit on the screen or for other random reasons throughout. Some of them are lightly edited. I will read the original questions when they are. D-Case asks, how long until Trey Lance has the arms race effect in the NFC that Mahomes just had in the AFC? Referencing, obviously, the buildup that the AFC did this year in spending beaucoup free agency dollars. I mean, it was a spending war. The AFC outspent the NFC by a gargantuan amount. And it's interesting. It's kind of tilted to the AFC at this moment, at least on paper. at least on paper, it sure seems like the vast majority of the wealthy teams, talent-wise, are in the AFC. I would guess that the NFC actually attempts to play catch up with the AFC more than anything else, more than an arms race around Trey Lance or the high caliber quarterbacks that are in the NFC. I don't think it'll be those quarterbacks that spark the race. I think it is literally the AFC that will force the NFC to raise its game. Right now, the number of dominant quarterbacks in the AFC is totally out of balance with the NFC. We're going to take a look here at my list of the top 12 quarterbacks in the league. My apologies if they don't jive with your top 12 quarterbacks in the league, but these are my top 12. In the AFC, these are in no particular order. Please do not think that these are ranked 12 to 1. These are just of the 12, who's in the AFC, who's in the NFC. AFC, we got Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Deshaun Watson. So 7 of those 12 in the AFC. Of those 7, only Russell Wilson fits into the kind of old category. I mean, he's old, but he plans to play another 10 years if you ask him. So I put him as kind of old. The AFC, you got Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, and Matthew Stafford. That rounds out the 12. And to me, I would argue that Dak, Kyler, and Stafford, all 3 in no particular order, fall towards the bottom of the list of my top 12 quarterbacks. So 3 of those 12, 3 of the 5 that are in the NFC are towards the end of the list. And then the other 2 are old AF. Yes, they are nearing the edge of retirement. They are old as dirt. And so it's a very lopsided look when you break it down by quarterback. So again, to me, this is more about catching up with the conference. But if we follow the timeline, if we want to say, well, when will there be this arms race that centers around Trey Lance in the NFC? If we follow the timeline of Josh Allen, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, who sort of started this arms race in the AFC, then we're looking at the 2026 season for the majority of the arms race, if it is parallel to the track of Patrick Mahomes and all those others, right? That would be a long time to wait. I think we see it a lot sooner than that. I'm looking to next offseason. If the Niners confirm Lance is as good as they hope, they're going to be real aggressive in my book. All right, that was the first previously submitted question. Now I want to get to some of you that are here live. So I am going to the comments. And we're bringing up Raphael 562 Niners because this one is unique in the question about Frank Gore. I do have a couple of Frank Gore topics coming later. You do not want to miss those. Those are in the previously submitted questions section. But this one is a little bit different. Raphael 562 Niners, sneakerhead here on the channel, says, at Rob, are the Niners going to retire Frank Gore's number 21? This is tough. I mean, Jed York has said repeatedly that you just can't retire all that many numbers. The Niners have a large number of numbers retired already because of their dominance earlier in previous decades. So at some point, you have to be very cautious about the numbers that you retire. I don't know if Jed's going to break the rule, break the trend for Frank, but I can tell you this definitively. In my opinion, he should. Frank Gore is a modern day legend. To me, there's Frank, there's Joe Staley, there's Patrick Willis, there's Vernon Davis, there's Alex Smith, there's Justin Smith. But of those names, Frank Gore, to me, is far and away above the others. So yes, I would retire Frank Gore's number 21 if I were Jed York. And Jed, if you're listening to me, I think you should consider retiring it yourself. E. Kim coming in with the question, sneakerhead here on the channel. Rob, your post-2000 49ers Mount Rushmore. So that's 4. It's got to be the first 3 that I listed. It's got to be Frank Gore, Joe Staley, Patrick Willis. The 4th one is tough because if you go post-2000, I could still include Jeff Garcia. His recent comments kind of take away from the shine of adding his face to a monument. I think I'd have to go Alex Smith. And I know that will upset a lot of people. There are better players. There are more talented players. There are players who maybe had more success. I like redemption stories. And I thought Alex Smith, his career trajectory was a redemption story. E. Kim gives his 4. Gore, Willis, Staley, and Justin Smith. I can't fault that. I certainly cannot fault trading Alex Smith for Justin Smith. You throw Cowboy on that list, that works. That works. Andrew Hoax coming in. Work it, Rob. Work it. I don't know. I'm working it. I'm working it here, boss. I'm working it. All right, here we go. Thomas disagrees with the Mount Rushmore just slightly. E. Kim, I'd replace Smith, where we had Justin Smith, with Navarro Bowman, homegrown. I can't fault that either. Navarro Bowman, an absolute stud. I have that jersey hanging up in the closet. Here we go. That Niner guy, E. Kim, Nate Clements, Ken Dorsey, Brian Jennings, Andy Lee, best. I think there's some sarcasm there. I think I see a smile on that Niner guy's face, but I don't know. Maybe he's serious. Maybe that's really his Mount Rushmore. I doubt it. I'm going to ask him on Thursday. I'm asking him. That Niner guy, you serious? You can't put Nate Clement. No, he can't be serious. He cannot. But I love it anyway. David Williams, I heard Frank the Tank go work in the front office after he retires. We're getting to that question in just a little bit. All right, I'm going back over for a previously submitted question. And again, put in at Rob Schuh if it's a question directed at me. That way I know that it is a question intended for me. Sorry, I was just reading the comments. Niner Gang agrees with me. That's a lot of sarcasm. I agree. E. Kim defending the choice of Justin Smith at Thomas. Justin Smith should have won the Defensive Player of the Year twice. Cowboy was a wrecking crew. Absolutely a wrecking crew. Again, if you have your questions in the chat live, put at Rob Schuh. I'm getting to a previously submitted question here. This one kills 2 birds with one stone, not stones. Here we go. This one was a combination of both NBA Seattle and a question submitted by E. Kim, both in regard to the offensive line. Both very valid questions, if I may say so. So I'm going to read out both questions, and then I'll get to my answer. So the first question was from NBA Seattle. That one was, is the Niners offensive line good enough as is, or will the front office look to shore things up in the draft with multiple picks? E. Kim came at it slightly differently, but I thought very similar questions, and so I've grouped them together here. But here's E. Kim's in its entirety. Biggest issue for me is the center to right tackle of the offensive line. Currently, I see no solution for right tackle, and hoping McGlinchey comes back healthy is not a plan. And expecting Mack to stay healthy a full season isn't a good one either. I consider Brunskill a backup offensive lineman at best. Do you see any solution to the most important group on the team? Okay, so both concerned about the offensive line. Personally, I don't think the 49ers have as much concern as we do, the fan base, about the offensive line. But let's go position by position. Left guard. You can't ignore the gaping. Obviously, I'm skipping left tackle because we're talking about Trent Williams, and we don't need to talk about Trent Williams. Trent Williams is the best left tackle in the league. He's going to be the best left tackle in the league this coming year, and them's are the facts. Them's is the facts. But left guard, can't ignore the gaping hole left by the departure of Laken Tomlinson. He was a strong lineman. He was great in the run game. And most importantly, he was almost always out there. Availability is the best ability. I believe he missed something like 2 snaps over his time with San Francisco. And I think both of those were because his shoe came off. Like, the guy was an Iron Man, no question. But I'd be willing to bet that the Niners feel pretty good about Aaron Banks stepping into that role. Honestly, those of us that complained that Banks didn't get enough playing time last year, myself included, should recognize that counting on him to start at left guard after a year in the Niners system and a year in an NFL weight room isn't really a huge stretch. Plus, he's next to Trent Williams, and that's going to help anybody out. So I think they view left guard position as pretty locked down at this point. Center. This one admittedly hinges on Alex Mack playing. If he does retire, that's a huge hole. Huge. That would change the game. But if he's back, I don't see any reason to believe that he won't have a solid year. He doesn't have any lingering health concerns that I'm aware of. He only missed 2 games in 2020 and 2/3 of the season in 2014. But other than that, he has been freaking healthy throughout his long career. So I don't think there's any reason to believe that if he comes back, that he wouldn't have a strong season his second year with San Francisco. I will admit that there's some nervousness on my part as to whether he will be back. The language similarity between what Lynch said about Joe Staley and Alex Mack is concerning. But until the draft, I'm assuming that he's back. I will be disappointed if we get a similar situation. Right guard, Daniel Brunskill, I do think would be a better sixth offensive lineman than a starting guard. I will gladly admit that. But he was the starting guard all year in 2021. And the offensive line was pretty damn solid, even with him next to Tom Compton for most of the year. My bet is that this is the position. Right guard is the position that the 49ers address in the draft. I think they take a future center in the first 3 rounds of the draft with one of their first 3 picks, which are in the second and then 2 in the third round. And I think they allow that center to compete with Brunskill. If the rookie wins out, it's ideal. Brunskill becomes the 6th offensive lineman capable of basically backing up every single position along the offensive line. He becomes a stud 6th offensive lineman as long as he's not the starting right guard. Right tackle, McGlinchey's health here is the concern, right? It's about whether he's going to be ready to play at the beginning of the season, because the 49ers managed a solid performance with Tom Compton at right tackle. And no matter what you think of Mike McGlinchey, I think most of us would admit he's better than Tom Compton. So that's an upgrade in my book. If he misses time, it's a big concern if he misses extended time. If he's going to miss extended time, I think the 49ers may look to sign another veteran sometime after the compensatory draft pick formula expires around May 10th. There will still be quality free agents available. A lot of vets will still be out there, and it won't count against the compensatory draft pick formula. I think the 49ers make a lot of moves after May 10th, judging by their compensatory draft picks as they sit right now. So if he's going to miss considerable time, I see them going the vet route. I think if they believe he's just going to miss a couple of games to start the year, I believe they would be comfortable with their O-line depth. You have heard the Niners talk about it considerably. Justin School, Jalen Moore, Brunskill, if he's beaten out at the right guard spot. To me, that wouldn't be such a bad offensive line. Again, when I look at it in its totality, it's not all that concerning as long as they address that right guard competition, center backup spot, future center with one of their first 3 picks. I'm going to feel pretty good about that. All right, I'm going back into the comments to get your current questions live. Bryant Culp, one of the sneakerheads here on the channel, coming in. At Rob, I understand that they're planning on retiring 21 for Gore. I hope they do. I hope they retire number 21. I absolutely hope they retire number 21. Niner Gang podcast coming in to do his Mount Rushmore, but it was a post-2000 Mount Rushmore, so you can't have Montana on there, and you can't have Rice, unfortunately. Gore, Rice, Montana, Willis, that's a very respectable Mount Rushmore, but that's an all-time. It was a post-2000, so you got to revise. You got to revise it a little bit. Brian Culp, to clarify at Rob, that is why nobody, and I mean nobody, is wearing number 21. Good. Retire that number. I'm telling you, retire it. Chris Royal coming in with the super chat. I think if you're going to retire a number, it should be a guy that was the best at his position in team history. I think Frank fits that requirement. I would agree. I mean, the 49ers did have the $1 million backfield way back in the day. But for modern day, I mean, Frank the Tank, I would have zero objections to retiring it. But I think that's a good criteria because you do need to have a specific cutoff where you're going to allow the retirement of numbers versus saying that, hey, we love you. We're going to put you in the Ring of Honor, but we can't retire the number because that's the differentiating factor. You could be in the Ring of Honor without having your number retired. But I think if you have your number retired, you're going to be in the Ring of Honor. Frank deserves all the accolades. Frank deserves both. He should be in the Ring of Honor and his number should be retired. That is my thought on it. Thomas B. coming in at Rob Schuh. Who will be the 49ers' biggest obstacle to a Super Bowl appearance this year? The Rams or another team? I like Brady after coming back. I think that the Bucs will want revenge. I think Brady is going to be hungry. I believe that they will be able to advance beyond the Rams this postseason if they get that matchup again. I thought they got caught off guard there by the Rams and that defense, and I just don't think it happens to Brady twice. I don't. I think the Rams are a very talented team. I see them as one of the four best in the NFC, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Niners knock them off as well. I just don't view them as unbeatable. There are a few teams in the AFC that worry me a heck of a lot more than anybody in the NFC. Juan coming in at Rob, but can Trent Williams stay healthy? That's the real question. Trent may miss a couple of games in each season, but I'm not I don't worry a lot about that, right? The NFL has a league average of over 2 games missed per player in the NFL. Now that's skewed by the fact that you have people miss the entire season, and that would, skew the average. It brings it way up. When someone misses 17 games, that's going to drag your average significantly higher. But I think it's fair to assume that most players in the NFL miss a game or two. I don't think it's a huge concern, and the 49ers do have depth. If they get Daniel Brunskill to be the 6th offensive lineman, that's now great depth beyond what I think most of the NFL has going for them. E. Kim, Rob, saying McGlinchey is better than Compton isn't saying much. No, but in 2021, the 49ers got by with Tom Compton at tackle and played quite well. I mean, if you look at their run blocking, it was, near the top of the league. When you look at their pass blocking, it was not near the bottom of the league. So to me, I think you're looking at, they got through last season with Tom Compton at right tackle, and McGlinchey's an upgrade. So that is an improvement. Therefore, I don't think that we have to worry quite as much as we might want to about that offensive line. Raphael 5629ers doing the good deed. Like and subscribe, everyone, from a sneakerhead here on the channel. I love it. I love the reminder. If you're just tuning in right now, help me bump that signal up by hitting that like button. All right. Itchy95 at Rob. Who do you think they should draft to compete at guard, eventually replace Alex Mack? My crush right now is on Cole Strange. Cole Strange is the gentleman that I would like to have come in, own that right guard spot with his nasty playing style, and transition to center when Alex Mack leaves. I'm assuming next year. I think next year is when Alex Mack retires. Niner Gang Podcast at Rob. What do you think of using Hufanga as a safety linebacker hybrid this season as the linebacker depth is thin? I actually don't think our linebacker depth is thin at this moment in time. Marcel Harris is still unsigned, and so that you could view that as a missing component. But the 49ers will go into the season, unless they trade him, with Fred Warner, Azeez Al-Shaair, and Dre Greenlaw coming back healthy. And then they added Oren Burks as well, right? As primarily a special teamer, but as depth as well. And then Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. So I actually don't think that we are thin in that room. I actually think linebacker is one of the deeper positions for the 49ers. But I do believe they will use Hufanga as you're describing here. I do think he will play down closer to the box in a more hybrid role, I believe. Johnny Robinson just yelling it. Have to admit that the Faders seem to have a solid roster overall at this time. I'm excited. I am very excited to see Devontae Adams out there. I can't deny it. And Castro 007 is here, always acting respectfully, and I love it. Go Raiders. Hey, I got some love for a fellow Bay Area team. I may be in the minority there. I don't want to upset the fans. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about the Niners, but respect to the Raiders. All right, Greg coming in here, a sneakerhead here on the channel, at Rob Schuh. I agree about the O-line concerns. I think they should grab Dylan Parham and Donovan West to fill those needs. Dylan Parham has experience at right guard and right tackle. Donovan West has experience at both guard positions and center. I would be fine with either one of those additions. I am skeptical to believe that the Niners invest heavily in O-line. I believe they invest a single pick toward the top of the draft and then perhaps one at the tail end of the draft or a unrestricted free or a free agent afterward, after undrafted free agent. That's a word I was looking for. All right, here is the overall Mount Rushmore from E. Kim. Rob, Eddie DeBartolo is on my overall 49ers Mount Rushmore. This franchise had the best overall win-loss record from 81 to 2001, all 5 Super Bowls. I love it. Eddie D is my hero. I had the chance to shake his hand, and I was struck. I was definitely struck by his size, but it was impressive. I mean, he was miniature in stature, but big in ego. I mean, you could just tell it. He was a confident man. He shook your hand, and it made you feel smaller than you were, even though you towered over him. Ben V. I feel like that's ticky-tack saying Raiders are not Bay Area. I mean, come on. They are a little bit. And Castro coming back in to say, go Niners as well. I love it. I love the positivity. All right, one more from Niner Gang Podcast, and I'm going back to the previously submitted. At Rob, do you believe that Debo balls out again this year, and we have to pay him close to Tyreek and Devontae money? I think he gets paid this summer. I believe he gets paid in July. The Niners tend to get those contracts done in July. I don't think they let Debo step on the field again without that deal. It would be a mistake. Debo would be unhappy. But yes, if he balled out again, that contract would just go up and up and up. That's why the Niners should want to lock it in right now. They should want to get that freaking, not discount, but the current version. They should want to get the current version. All right, this is an interesting one. This wasn't a question that was submitted, but this was an email that I got from Philip D coming in. I know Philip is here talking about the Hollywood ending. This is a potential scenario that he lays out there. So follow along with me on this one because it was too long to put in the actual letters in the chat, whatever it is, the little thing at the bottom, which I cannot name at this moment in time. The banner. The banner is what I was searching for. All right, so here's the Hollywood version. The team goes into the season starting a second-year quarterback with last year's veteran starting quarterback as a backup. The young quarterback does well and leads the team to the NFC Championship game without any significant injuries. But then in the fourth quarter, the young quarterback goes down. It's not a serious injury, but it will keep him off the field for about 3 weeks. The veteran quarterback steps in, leads the team on to win the Super Bowl. The final scene shows the veteran quarterback being carried off the field on the shoulder of his teammates after finally achieving his childhood dream of winning a Super Bowl. Philip, that is a heck of a storybook ending right there for Jimmy Garoppolo's time with the San Francisco 49ers. Let me say, I'm a big fan of Hollywood endings like that, but I have to say personally, I just don't know if this team or me, again, me personally, can take a full season of the Trey-Jimmy dynamic in the 49ers locker room. If Jimmy stays, man, I just cannot picture it. To me, the storybook ending needs to be Lance at the end of the season. It needs to be Lance winning that Super Bowl. But hey, if it's a 6 Lombardi, I'll take it, no matter how it happens. And I'd be thrilled for Jimmy if it did. I'm just not sure I can take the stress of the Jimmy-Lance dynamic through an entire season. That would be hard to deal with. All right, this one comes in from Exit 49 Podcast. With training camp starting in mid-July and Jimmy expected to be healthy in early July, what's the last day or week that you expect him to be on the team? I don't think the Niners are going to want Jimmy Garoppolo to practice. I don't think they're going to want him to step foot on the field for fear of an injury that put him out the season while also guaranteeing his salary would be a worst case scenario. So OTAs wrap up in mid-June. Lance is going to be throwing throughout all of OTAs because Jimmy is not going to be able to throw until around July. So anytime after that OTA wrapping up in mid-June, anytime after that is going to be prime time to trade Jimmy Garoppolo because training camp then starts in mid-July. And again, I don't think the Niners want Jimmy to step on the field. He'd be ready to throw by mid-July, and they wouldn't want him to be on the field throwing. That would be a considerable risk. I'd guess the Niners would rather have Jimmy off the books by then. But the true hard line that we have to admit to ourselves, the true hard line is week 1 of the 2022 season. That's when Jimmy's full salary would be guaranteed if he's on the roster. If Jimmy's on the roster week 1, there's the likelihood he finishes the season with the Niners. But I don't think he will be. I think that's the hard date where they consider cutting him if he's still there. So to me, mid-June to mid-July feels like the sweet spot, but I'm not going to be shocked if it lingers beyond that. I still think that he is cut or traded. That is my firm prediction. But I do believe that they'd probably wait until the end of the preseason games in hope of an injury before a release. I just don't think that they would want him practicing or playing. It would get weird. So again, that sweet spot seems to be mid-June to mid-July for something to happen. All right, getting back into the comments to see your comments live. This is an interesting one from Ecamm. Back to the Mount Rushmore topic. Rob, Carmen policy deserves consideration for the overall Mount Rushmore. Kept Eddie from making irrational decisions while angry. Carmen policy had a large effect on the 49ers way back when. Yes, I could see adding that. Dirk Pippen calling out. Yes, that was a storybook ending, and it was a fairy tale. I definitely do not believe that Jimmy stays that long. Quesadilla Thrilla 71 coming in to say like and subscribe, please. Great job, Rob. Appreciate you, Quesadilla Thrilla. If you haven't liked the video, hit that like button. AJB pointing out July 4th would be fitting for that trade. Freedom. Let's celebrate it. All right, I'm going back into the previously submitted questions. This one coming in from Otto M. Do you think coach will turn to Nate Sudfeld if Trey Lance struggles? It seems like something he'd do. I get the frustration in the second half of that, right? That seems like something he'd do. That sounds to me as if you are frustrated by the moves of Coach Shanahan, that you probably wanted Trey Lance to get some reps during last season. I don't fault you for that. I wanted that as well. But when I look at Nate Sudfeld getting snaps if Trey Lance struggles, I got to say no freaking way does that happen. Because to me, the entire purpose of having Nate Sudfeld as the only backup, and that does seem to be the plan if you follow the money, assuming Jimmy is at some point traded or released, follow the money. Nate Sudfeld is the freaking backup to Trey Lance. The reason for having him as the sole backup is that there is no pressure on Trey Lance at that point. There's no name for fans to legitimately call out if Trey struggles at some point next year. Because let's be clear, while I completely believe in Trey, I believe in Trey Lance. Let's be clear on the fact that it's likely he struggles at times. He is a second-year quarterback in the NFL with limited playing time in college. I think it's reasonable to expect that we will need to have patience for this to play out, and I think Shanahan will need that patience as well. Rohan coming in, Rohan C. coming in with the question, what is your expectation for Javon Kinlaw this season? I'm going to differentiate here between hope and expectation. My hope is that Javon Kinlaw shows us all why the 49ers front office felt okay trading DeForest Buckner and selecting Kinlaw. I'm not saying that he has to be DeForest Buckner. I don't think that's possible, but he needs to resemble a bargain version of him because that's what the 49ers, I think, were counting on when they traded away DeForest Buckner instead of paying him and used that pick to take Javon. When I look at my expectations, I'm going to temper my expectations a little bit. My expectations are lower than my hopes at this point. I'm excited by the interview that Brad Graham did with Kinlaw the Barbarian. That absolutely fired me up. I thought that was a great interview. I thought his energy was electric, and I thought his attitude was on point. I'm very excited to see him running against light resistance today. That video came out where Kinlaw was running on the side field. I'm guessing that is right outside of Shanahan's window as he was talking about. He is observing it. Very excited to see that happening today. But as far as expectations, I expect him to contribute this year. I hope he's healthy all season. I would take a full season of production as a huge win, even if it isn't dominant play the entire year. To me, that would be a win for Javon Kinlaw. Just getting him out there, allowing him to do what he does for a full year. All right, looking at the at Rob Schuh comments to bring in your live comments. Thomas Luttrell coming in. At Rob Schuh. Do you think number 10 is regretting the decision to get that surgery? Do you think if we release him before week 1, he'll need thumb surgery? Grant us. I think we all need thumb surgery at this point. I've been refreshing Twitter for too long. I now have ambidextrous thumbs because my right wore out and I had to go to the left for refreshing Twitter. It's a tireless, thankless job, but somebody's got to do it. I don't know if he's regretting it. My guess here is that he didn't do it to spite the 49ers. I don't think he intentionally tanked his trade value. I think what he said to himself is, hey, my doctor recommended I get the surgery now. It doesn't benefit the 49ers that I do it, but you know what? I'm not looking out for the 49ers right now. I'm looking out for me. And I think one of the unintended consequences could have been that he didn't get traded at all. But he had to know that was a possibility. If he didn't, then he wasn't doing his due diligence. His agent didn't advise him properly. So I have to believe that, Jimmy knew that was a possibility by getting the surgery, that it would mean he didn't get traded. And maybe that's what he wants. We have to guess at that because Jimmy's not talking. But you could see a scenario where Jimmy wanted to be back. I don't think that's likely. I watched him say goodbye to his teammates, to the fan base, to the press. And that seemed like a very genuine goodbye. I don't expect to be back here next year. So I don't know that he truly understood how badly his trade market would be hurt by that surgery. I'm sure that at this point, he wishes that he had a new destination. I'm sure it would feel more comfortable for him if he were with a new team instead of stuck in limbo as he is right now. So in that respect, if he chose to get the surgery specifically to screw up the trade, then yes, I do think he is regretting it. But I'm not so sure that he did. I think he may have just been picturing what's best for Jimmy's health at that point. Bryant Culp coming in, sneakerhead here on the channel. At Rob, Robbie Gould is great, but when should we expect to replace him? This is an intriguing one. I'm not so sure Robbie Gould is going to agree to another contract with the San Francisco 49ers. So let's look at Robbie Gould's contract and see when it expires. I feel like it just has one more year on it, right? Right. I put in Robbie Gould contract and I just found Robbie Gould speaking fee and booking agent contact. We may need to get him on the program. We may need to pay his speaking fee. Get Robbie Gould to answer some questions here. Okay, so the last year of his deal is 2022. So I think this is it for Robbie Gould. I think that this is the last year that you see Robbie Gould kicking for the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think he wants to agree to another deal with the Niners. He wanted to get back to Chicago. He wanted to spend more time with his kids. And I'm not so sure that the Niners want to invest that much at the kicking position. So I think this may be the last year that we see Robbie Gould here. Bryant Culp, at Rob, when the Niners believe in special teams and invest, that's when we see the reward. Yes, he also saying special teams needs more respect. I thought they did that. I thought they did that this offseason, finally investing in special teams in the third phase of the game. I'm very pleased with the free agent additions they made specifically on special teams. I do wish they had brought back a couple more of their own players, although I freely admit I wouldn't have brought back Laken Tomlinson or DJ Jones at those contract numbers. I do wish they had brought back Raheem Mostert at his contract number. I do hope they still bring back Jason Verrett because I think that that's a low-risk, high-reward type of signing. All right, getting back to the previously submitted questions here. This one comes in from Anthony M. Anthony asking who's on the hot seat. So if the team has a bad record coming up this season, who is to blame and who will get fired? From Anthony M here. Let me say, I think the season would need to go really badly. I mean, really badly for anyone of significance to get fired this year. After having just gotten to the NFC Championship game, having gotten to the Super Bowl 2 years prior, I think that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan are very secure with Jed York. It's fair to wonder if all the first-year coaches would be safe, though, if things went poorly, because there are a lot of first-year coaches this year. If it's a rough year and Trey Lance doesn't look all that good, would that spell the end for the Brian Griese experiment? It seems like a logical conclusion. if you don't like what you see from Trey Lance in year 2. But I don't see any circumstance where John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan are relieved of their duties, barring some total collapse, some unforeseen collapse in this upcoming season. I would see it as an 8-9 season or better should allow all to keep their jobs, in my estimation, my humble estimation. I think they'd pitch it as a transition year, that, hey, it was Trey Lance's first year. He had some bumps and bruises. But I think this team ends up in the playoffs again this year. And I think because of that, everybody is safe at the end of the year. The blame game, though, is different. I think if the team is discombobulated, top to bottom on the roster, Kyle's going to get the blame for that. But if it's Trey specific, if Trey struggles this year, it could be divided into camps. Those that believe the pick was entirely wrong and that we should not have drafted Trey Lance are going to blame John Lynch. And those that believe that Kyle failed to develop Trey and brought on Brian Griese instead of a qualified quarterback coach will start to blame Kyle Shanahan. So I think that could get divided, as a lot of our fan base tends to be. All right, Abe Froman coming in here with a previously submitted question. Which players will be targeted at 61? Safety, O-line, or edge? From Abe Froman. First of all, got to recognize the Sausage King of Chicago. Cheers, Abe Froman. Cheers, sir, to the Sausage King of Chicago. If you don't get that reference, please go watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off immediately. I give you permission to end the live stream, bounce out of here, go watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm kidding. Go watch it after the show. After the show. But yes, that is a reference from Ferris Bueller's, and it's a gorgeous one. I'm going to say that O-line is not going to be it with the first pick. I just don't see the 49ers using pick 61 on the O-line, even though that may be the position of greatest need as it stands right now. My guess is that it's either edge or defensive back. And I know that I'm hedging there by expanding safety into defensive back. I am sort of hedging right there. If I'm placing a bet, though, I'm going to get more specific and not hedge. If I'm placing a bet, I say the Niners invest in defensive line again. They love to do that continually. I think they select the best edge rusher still on the board at 61. That would be my take on it. All right, getting back into your live comments. Again, if you're here, smash that like button for me. Smash it. NorCal Bill saying, I'd be down to bring Jason Verrett back. 1 year, $1 million. It would be fantastic to bring him back in. It would be absolutely fantastic. Ooh, I missed a couple of super chats that just came in. Here we go. Getting to those right now. Syard Sneakerhead here on the channel says, at this point, throw my 5'11", 174-pound self on the line. Hey, at offensive line, I mean, that's going to be painful. You're going to get some bumps and bruises, but we may need it. We may need it. No, depth for the 49ers is actually very good, I believe. I mean, depth for the Niners is good. It's the starting roles where we may be counting on depth pieces to fill starting roles that seems a little suspect. But again, I don't think the 49ers are as concerned about offensive line as the vast majority of the faithful are. Johnny Robinson coming in with the super chat as well. Will you be doing a 7-round mock draft? Yes, I will be doing multiple. Let's just throw it out there. Let's say I do 3 mock drafts and I will work on getting the first one out. Let's go 1 each week. I'll work on getting the first one out this week. And then we will try to get another mock out next week. We got about 3 more weeks till the draft. And I will be there in Las Vegas. I will be at the draft. I am loving the fact that I will be there at the draft. But yes, there will be some mocks coming out. Rob Schumacher. Schumacher. You know, that's what my last name used to be when my ancestors moved over from Germany in the 1850s. Schumacher. Apparently, some of my ancestors made shoes. That's legit. You were named after what you did as a profession back in the day. Bryant Culp coming back in. Sneakerhead here on the channel at Rob. When the Niners believe in special teams and invest. Ooh, we saw that one. Yes, this is the one. Brian Culp coming in at Rob. After seeing the Jimmy G Subway commercial, have you wanted a sub? No, I am not a fan of Subway. Sorry if that offends anybody, but I am not a fan. NorCal Bill. Rob, who would you like to see us draft at 61? That's a tough one. I mean, I keep throwing out Jalen Petrie, but I don't think he's going to be available at that portion of the draft. I think that there are a couple of edge guys who are going to be available there, and that's probably where I would make my pick. Ebiketie should be there at 61. That seems like it could be a fit. Nick Bonito maybe is there at 61. So again, I think the Niners go edge at 61. I don't think Boye Mafe is there. I would guess he's gone earlier, but you never know. I mean, the draft can fall in funny ways. That's for sure. Real funny ways. All right, looking for those at Rob Schuh comments. This one coming in from We Suck. I like it. We Suck says at Rob Schuh. Oh yeah, what's up with Verrett? I wonder if we will bring him in for cheap. I do think the Niners will continue to kick the tires there. My guess, and I've read this elsewhere as well, speculation, but still educated speculation, is that Jason Verrett is still trying to figure out if his body is responding to the latest injury, right? I think for him, it's a question of whether his body is going to be able to go for another season. And that's got to be a very personal decision for him. I would guess, though, once he confirms that, the Niners would be top of his list for teams that he would like to come back to. And I'm hoping for it because you guys know, I got to show it again. I went foolish and got a pair of Jason Verrett's game-worn freaking cleats at the end of the season. So I really hope that Jason Verrett is back and that he is on the Niners so that I can bring him on the program and talk to him and show him that I have these cleats and get him to sign them. Jason Verrett, what do you think? You think you want to sign those cleats? I mean, I was very supportive of the cause in getting him in here. That would be good. NorCal Bill says he would like a safety at 61. There are a couple of options at safety for the Niners at 61. No doubt about it. Niner Gang Podcast talking to NorCal Bill says, Bill, I would love for it to be an interior guard, but the Niners will go D-line and piss me off. LOL. I think that's entirely possible. I do think, like I said, I'm predicting the Niners go D-line. I'm predicting they go speed, edge, rusher. NorCal Bill comes back with a few names. Jalen Petrie is on there. Hill, Brisker, McKinley, Sign. Those would all be reasonable safety choices for the Niners. AJB doing the good work. Bash the smash button. Bash the smash button. It's the Bash Brothers. We're going back to, let's see, Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco. Hit the Bash Brothers on that button. Let's do it. Do it. Just do it. We Suck says at Rob, do you think Lynch will trade to move up? I think it's fair to assume with the number of picks the Niners have, 9 in the upcoming draft, that there will be some movement. With the first couple of picks, I don't anticipate the Niners will move up. To move up in the early rounds costs considerable draft capital. What I think the Niners might actually do with one of their earlier picks is trade back, because then you can accrue a couple more picks in the top 130, which is the meat of the draft, right? That top 130, 150 players is really where you want to be picking. If you have to give up considerable later round picks to move up from 61 to say 55 or something like that, that doesn't seem like good allocation of assets. So yes, I think they may move up, but I would predict they move up in the later rounds. I think that they're more likely to move back in rounds 2 or 3. Here we go. Greg suggesting just that. Sneakerhead here on the channel at Rob Schuh. Would you trade back with the 61st pick? I would consider it. I would definitely consider it. You got to look at who's available. You can't just, right? You're not going to trade back from 61 right now. You're not going to strike a deal that says, we'll move back from 61 to 68 just to accrue some picks. No, you got to see who's available at 61. But if the guys you like are off the board, if some of those hot names have bounced, then yes, I would consider trading back. That Niner guy with the suggestion, Sneakerhead here on the channel, Rob, please, let's do a mock on the stream. That Niner guy, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. You and me are doing a freaking mock draft on the stream. Let's do it. Dirk Pippen says he is not that kind of dude. He is not a jerk face. I don't know who's not a jerk face, but I love the fact that we're defending somebody who is not I hope it's me. I'm not a jerk face. I'm not a jerk. I mean, I may have a jerky face, but I'm not a jerk face, if you will, if you know what I'm saying. Greg coming back in, Sneakerhead here on the channel at Rob Schuh. You should do a call-in mock draft like the fans, like Croc did. That's a great idea. I like both of those ideas, and I'm adding both of them to the lineup. Boom! locking it down. That Niner guy and Greg have just built out 2 shows for me, and I'm here for it. Darren Worthington at Rob with the Niners giving up. Did you complete that? No, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing. Darren, come back in with the rest of that sentence. I want to know. I want to know what you're talking about. Oh, we got William Bennett coming in with the super chat. Sneakerhead here on the channel, and a great dude from Washington, D.C. Rob, my guy. Like, subscribe, hit that bell. William doing the good deed here, and I appreciate it, William. Thank you, and I hope to see you Thursday, good sir. Bullpup33, also a sneakerhead here on the channel. Just in case you're wondering, anybody can join the channel. Anybody can become a sneakerhead. Become part of the channel. Support the vibe. I love it. Absolutely love it. Bullpup says, at Rob, what about Winfrey from Oklahoma? Would you consider him if available? I've got to admit, Winfrey from Oklahoma. Perrion Winfrey. Let's see. Interior defensive lineman from Oklahoma. I mean, I'm definitely down with going guard. I just wouldn't do it was the question. Let me see. Would I go there at 61? Oh, if available. I wouldn't go there at 61. I wouldn't at 61. If available later, yes, absolutely. I love addressing interior O-line in the 3rd round with one of those picks. We have the 93rd and the 105th picks in the 3rd round. Either one of those seem like a great spot to take interior O-line. All right, I am going to get to some of the. Nope, we got a super chat, and then I'm getting to the previously submitted questions. And we got one still coming up. We already got to one, but we got a second one from Rohan, who is here in the chat. I'm going to get to this one in just a second. Plus, I got your previously submitted ones. I love the interaction, Rohan. Rohan, we got to get you on here. We got to get you on the program. I don't know why we haven't made that happen already. I don't know. We got to make it happen. Chris Royal, sneakerhead here on the channel, coming in with the super chat. Got to grab some lunch out in Vegas, my guy. Yes, dude, there is no shortage of great food out there in Las Vegas, and you know I'm a food guy. Let's make it happen. You know what's a great spot? I'm going to be staying at Mandalay Bay because that's close to the stadium there, and Burger Bar is legit good, but it got bought out by new ownership, so I got to try it out now that it's owned by new ownership. But great burgers, and I think that could be a dope lunch spot. There's a couple of ones. I'm very familiar with Vegas. I spent a lot of time there working for Tesla, actually. So, all right. Let me get to a previously submitted question. I'll be back in the chat in just a moment. Don't go anywhere because you love the previously submitted ones. These are the well thought out answers. These are the ones that are robust. Ryan comes in with this one. Ryan L says, can you see the Niners drafting a tight end high to pair with Kittle? Always been a fan of 2 tight end sets and think it would work well with the offense. Plus, Kittle's been missing a couple of games every season. Or are they fine with the Warner-Dwelley combo? Yes, they did just bring Dwelley back on the 1-year deal. I don't think that precludes them from taking a tight end. I could see them drafting a tight end, but it depends on what your definition of high in the draft is. So I don't think it will be high. Here are the picks. The Niners have the 61st, the 93rd, 105th, 134th, 172nd, 187th, 220th, 221st, and 262nd picks. That is Mr. Irrelevant there at 262. So I view the top half of the draft as high and the bottom half of the draft as not high, right? So any of those 2nd or 3rd round picks where we have the 61st, the 93rd, or the 105th. If they invested any of those 3 at tight end, I would consider that high. And no, I do not believe that they will do that. I think that the top 3 picks will be used to address offensive line, edge, and defensive back in some order. I thought Shanahan alluded to the fact that you need to fill holes, even though taking the best player available is a better strategy. And I think the Niners do have some holes on the roster. My guess is that the earliest you would see them invest at a 2nd tight end position would be at 134, which is in the 4th round. Anything after that, to me, is fair game for the Niners to take a tight end. And that might, and I stress might because he's a draft climber, still be early enough to get my guy, Jelani Woods, out of Virginia. He's the dude that's 6'7", 260 pounds, and ran a freaking 4.6 40-yard dash at the combine. I watched him crush the bench press and do 24 reps as a tight end. I was like, who's this dude? And then we were out at Lucas Oil Stadium, and I watched him run the 4.6 40. I was like, let's go watch some tape of him. He needs to work on his hands. He was bottom 4 in drop rate, and that's why he may still be on the board in the 4th round. But he's a draft climber. In some of those mocks, he's going to be going higher than that. All right, let's get back into, I just zoomed in like a mofo on that screen. Let's get to your comments here. Darren coming back in. Maybe this may be a repeat of the earlier one. Get the full comment in there. Thank you, Darren. At Rob, with the Niners giving up so much draft capital for Trey, could you see them being extremely aggressive in the draft? Meaning, I see aggressive as like packaging a bunch of picks to move up, targeting a couple of guys and having heavy movement, even if it's just a couple of smaller moves. So I would say no. I think the Niners may bounce around in this draft, but I don't think it's going to be heavy trade up. I think they will balance it with potentially one of their first 3 picks being a trade back to accumulate an additional pick within that first half of the draft, or at least within the first 4 rounds. So I could see them moving back a little bit. And I will say that I could see them moving around in those later rounds because those ones are easier to move. If you want to move up in the 5th, move up in the 6th, that's a lot easier, a lot cheaper to do. I could definitely see them doing that, but I don't think that qualifies as aggressive. So I'm going to say no. I don't think they will be aggressive in this draft. I think the aggression for the Niners happens potentially in a mid-season trade in 2022. Or the 2022 offseason before the start of 2023. I think that's when we see aggression from the Niners. Coming in. Says, at Rob, do you know anything about Nick Cross, the safety from Maryland? I'm hearing him a lot lately. I definitely have heard that name as well. It's not one that is on my list as of right now, but it depends on where you're taking it. I don't, other than Jalen Petrie, and I realize that the Niners would probably have to move up to get him. If he falls into the 50s, I hope the Niners do get aggressive and go that route. I think Jalen Petrie could be a ball hawk safety / nickel corner in the NFL, and he just was so silky smooth watching him in person. Nick Cross, I don't specifically remember from the combine, but definitely a name I have seen mocked to the 49ers. Brian Culp, a little bit of humor around that Subway commercial. Rob, are the faithful supposed to root for Subway or not? Like, I mean, for a little bit longer, I think you got to root for Subway because you still got to root for Jimmy Garoppolo. But then when he's not on the team, I think at that point you can say, no, we're moving on. But the best sponsorship for Subway was definitely Happy Gilmore. I'm with JT on that one. Definitely with JT on that one. He corrects it. Subway, not Sunboy. But, you know, close enough. Close enough. Greg coming back in at Rob Schuh for 5. You should check out, for safety, you should check out Brad Hawkins from Michigan. I think we could get him around the 200s if we get a pick there. We do. We have a pick at 187 and 220. So potentially the 187 was the 6th rounder we got from Denver for trading our linebacker the other year. And then 220 is a compensatory pick at the end of the 6th round. So potentially. Alan saying, at Rob, you have good jokes tonight, making me laugh out loud. I'm feeling myself a little bit. A few days away from the stream, I'm feeling myself. You know, when it's just me, when I don't have a guest on, a little more of the personality has to come out because you're basically staring into a camera, talking to yourself. And that's a little crazy. And so the crazier side of my personality can come out on that one. So I'm glad that folks enjoy it. Rohan coming in at Rob Schuh. What do you believe is the biggest hole on the roster? I teased this one earlier, and I'm glad that I got it back in here. Man, this is tough. I think that you could point to offensive line. You could say one of the guard positions, but quite honestly, as I went through earlier, I think Aaron Banks is a suitable replacement at left guard, and Daniel Brunskill started at right guard for the entire 2021 season. Safety, to me, feels like the biggest hole. I don't think Jaquiski Tartt gets nearly the level of respect that he deserves, especially after the dropped interception in the NFC Championship game. I also believe that the 49ers are getting cute there. They're going a little bit cheap. They're going with hey, one of these guys will rise above the rest. So safety to me feels like the biggest quote unquote hole that exists on the roster right now. Ooh, E. Kim asking about that. Rob, does Tart re-sign with the 49ers? I have heard a rumor. Let me say that. It is a rumor that Tart would prefer to play elsewhere. So I haven't confirmed that myself, but it does make you wonder if a deal is going to get done. Because if he's going to want to save face with another team, then it's not entirely up to the 49ers to bring him back. Jerome M. Sneakerhead here on the channel at Rob. I think for sure the Niners grab a center in the draft. Shanahan puts a premium on that position. He will plan for when Mac actually retires. Jerome, I hope you're right about that. I think the Niners should invest the 93rd or the 105th pick into that. Absolutely believe that they should. Ooh, we're talking about Christian Watson. Dirk wants to trade up for Christian Watson. I think that would be very, very sweet. Dirk Pippen saying, trade up, get Christian Watson. Tom Jensen, a very insightful dude, coming in at Dirk. Watson mocked at 26 by McShay today. They could offer all their picks, and it still doesn't meet the trade value of 26. Watson may just be out of range. That's rough. That's rough. All right, we got Syard coming in with the super chat. Like, subscribe, and share the Schuh magic. Enough said. Syard, sneakerhead here on the channel, doing kind things. I appreciate it. Again, if you are watching the channel right now and you're saying to yourself, who is this dude? Hit that like button. Get more people to say, who is this dude? Subscribe to the channel if you think to yourself, who is this dude? He's cool. I like what he has to say here. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. I appreciate it. I do. I really appreciate it. All right, I got a super chat and then, Greg just doing the kind deed of dropping in the super chat. Greg, thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Very kind of you. Alan coming in. Here we go. At Rob Schuh, do you have plans to have a show with Jesse from Last Second Sports? I think it would be fun to watch. I love the show, Rob. Hey, I've had Jesse on the channel, I believe, twice, maybe a third time, but I definitely will have him back for a third time. I've been over on maybe not his channel, but with he and Jack when they do Hammer and Nails for a couple of episodes, one of which was a great frickin' roundtable episode that we did with Jack, Jesse, myself, and Aaron from 49ers First Takes. I thought that was a dope episode. So yes, there will be future collabs happening with Jesse. I'm a big fan. And I'm sure that we'll make that happen. No doubt about it. Starco Fan 212 at Rob Schuh. Is there anybody else do you think the Niners will sign this offseason? Yes. I think the 49ers will sign several more late additions, key veterans. It will just happen after May 10th. May 10th is the end of that compensatory draft pick formula calculation window. So any players that are signed before May 10th factor into the compensatory draft pick calculation. Any veterans signed after May 10th no longer count. So you saw the Niners do that real heavy in 2011. I could see this as another year where the 49ers go heavy on the post-May 10th signings. I think that could be where you have your eyes out for some of these names that are still out there that are intriguing, but that haven't signed anywhere yet. Tastes like chicken. If this is true, I wish him the best. Jesse had eye surgery. He's healing right now. I hope that he is healing well. Ironically, I'm actually going in for surgery. Next Monday, I'm going in. I went to the dermatologist and had a little something removed right here. And it ended up, unfortunately, being my first adventure with cancer, with very light skin cancer, whatever they call those things, a basal cell carcinoma, I believe is what they call it. So I go in for a frickin' 5-hour surgery this next Monday that really isn't all that intense. It just is very long because they keep you on the table and slice away until they find, and then they look under the microscope and they have to find that you have no cancer cells remaining. So I also will be going in for eye surgery. I wish nothing but the best for Jesse, and hopefully he'll be back at it quickly. I intend to be back at it quickly as well. I hope to be live that night. Hopefully you won't zoom in on my stitch that exists afterwards. Bullpup 33 at Rob. The hardest thing to predict in the draft is runs. Runs on position can totally ruin your board. I see runs on wide receivers this year. I think you may be right about the wide receivers. It's a very deep class for edge rushers and wide receivers. You could see a run on either one of those happening. But if either one don't experience a run, you could see some really phenomenal people falling in this draft. Absolutely. Darren asking a very critical question at Rob. How do you become a sneakerhead? I've been subscribed for a long time, but I'm on an iPad and it won't let me. Darren, I think what you have to do, because with iOS, specifically with an iPhone and iPad, they make it challenging to find the join button. The join button should just be right there where the subscribe button is. But if you go to a web browser, so you can get your iPad to open up a web browser as if it's a regular desktop. So if you do a desktop web browser, then you should see the join button. I don't know why it's not there for iOS, for the iPhone, and for iPads, but it's super easy on Android and on a laptop of any type, whether it's a Mac or a PC. So try to get your web browser to open as a desktop. That feature, you'd probably have to Google it. Starco Fan 212 at Rob Schuh. Hope everything goes well during your surgery. Thank you. I appreciate that. Absolutely do. I'm not very nervous about it. I trust in the process. The scary thing is the word cancer, but it's as not scary as possible with that word. Like, yes, that word freaked me. Admittedly, when I heard that word, I was not thrilled. But then I looked it up and confirmed that, yes, technically it is cancer, and it is to be expected with my pale Irish skin. I'm going to have basal cells. My mother has had 3 removed, and she's in great health, and she is 30 years older than I am. So I look to that as inspiration. Robert Prigmore coming in. Hey, Rob, late to this awesome party, but do you see a situation where the Jimmy G situation becomes a positive situation, or how about him embracing the backup role? Robert, I hope not. I hope it becomes positive in that we move him for draft picks and that he ends up somewhere he's happy. That, to me, is the only positive outcome of this situation. And it's not too late for that to happen. It is not too late for Jimmy G to still be traded for a pick of value, potentially not in this year's draft, potentially in next year's draft, but an asset nonetheless, and for him to have a good situation going forward. I do not want him in the backup role. To me, that would just be too much stress on the young quarterback. All right, I have just a couple more of these previously submitted questions that I'm going to get to, and then I will spend the rest of the time in the chat. This one coming in from Anthony M. So he says, will Frank Gore be hired by the 49ers as a scout or be in the front office? It sounded to me like Jed appreciates Frank's eye for talent. And the answer there is yes, because I think technically, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think technically scouts would be considered part of the front office. So I think those two terms could be used interchangeably there. But the question still becomes, like, what is his role? My bet is that he's as a scout. And I look at what York said. He said, Frank knows which guys love football. He's very, very good at getting to the heart of that. He just knows which guys like to play football and which guys don't. The timing of that, though, is unknown. Gore said that it may be a couple of months before the details are settled and that he's actually eyeing a role in the scouting department. In his own words, Frank Gore said, I love evaluating talent and I love ball. And they know that I know football players, what it's supposed to take to be a football player. When I think of Gore and Bobby Turner together in 2023, evaluating running backs, yes, please give me more of that. Rohan coming back in here with is Frank Gore a Hall of Famer in your eyes? Absolutely, Rohan. Absolutely. To me, there's not, I said this on Jack's program yesterday, but I will repeat it. There's not one specific formula to get into the Hall of Fame. You might have been the best in the league for a period of time at your position. You might have changed the game in some fundamental way, or perhaps you are consistently one of the best in the league and you sustain that over a long enough period of time that it is incredibly impactful. To me, that is Frank Gore. He was one of the best in the league for a ridiculously long amount of time. the overall accrual of stats is something that has to be respected. And Gore is third all time in rushing yards. Third. Managing an NFL career over a long period of time and producing at a high level are things that have to be respected. Must be respected. Look at the stats. Most consecutive seasons with 1,200 scrimmage yards in the NFL. Frank Gore leads that list with 12. Barry Sanders, 10. Emmitt Smith, 10. Curtis Martin, 10. Jerry Rice, 9. Everyone else on that list is in the Hall of Fame. Every non-active player who ranks in the top 10 for all-time rushing yards in the NFL has been inducted into the Hall of Fame. Again, Frank Gore is third on that list. I love Jordan Elliott's tweet from the other day. In 2006, Frank Gore finished third in rushing yards, despite being ninth in rushing attempts. 10 running backs that season had 300 or more rushing attempts. Frank Gore led all of them with an average of 5.4 yards per carry. That was higher than LaDainian Tomlinson, who ended up winning MVP of the league that year. Frank Gore, his stats were better. Just saying. I'm not saying he should have been the MVP. I mean, maybe he should have been, but I'm telling you, yes. First ballot Hall of Fame. Niner Gang podcast with the super chat. Hope your surgery goes well. Appreciate that. Absolutely. Fist bump on that. Cheers. Thank you. Fingers crossed. The biggest thing is, will I have a big scar right there, right? I got to trust that this dermatologist has steady hands. I don't want to get in there and watch him signing a pen and see the jitters, right? What is that? Blazing Saddles, where he's like, look at that. He's like steady as a rock. He's like, yeah, but this is my shooting hand. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping. Luke Walsh coming in. I had Mohs surgery. I think this is the one I'm having, and other kinds as well. Squamous cells, carcinoma, actinic keratosis, melanoma. Mostly Irish with some German. That is me. Mostly Irish with some German as well, Luke. Hey, cheers to that fair skin and not wearing enough sunscreen as a child who grew up in the 80s. Ricardo Castro at Rob Schuh. Would you reunite in N'Keal Harry with Brandon Ayuk if available? Yes, if he gets cut, that seems like a very intriguing product to bring in for the 49ers. One of those, especially if he's released and doesn't count against the compensatory draft pick formula. You could have a reclamation project. The talent is there. You just got to be able to, get him to progress a little bit. And I think the 49ers have shown an ability to develop some of their wide receivers. Not all of them, but they have shown a propensity to be able to develop them, even if it takes a little longer, like it did with Brandon Ayuk. Maybe that's what N'Keal Harry needed. Starco fan 212 at Rob Schuh. If the Seahawks do draft a quarterback, who do you hope they'll draft that will best help the Niners? Starco fan, honestly, I haven't considered that, so it would be an off-the-cuff answer. I just hope that the dominoes fall in the quarterback market such that it helps the 49ers trade Jimmy Garoppolo. That is my only concern at this point in time. Get that man to a team. Get him off of our books. Get him off. All right, getting back to the previously submitted questions here. I got 2 more. So keep yours coming in the chat. Hit at Rob Schuh or at Rob so I know you're talking to me. This one comes in from Hefe, and this was an interesting one. I hope Hefe is watching, that he's been here this whole show so that he can answer this or that he sees it in comments later on. Hefe, he asks, why isn't more made about the fact that Jim is among the NFL's worst in completion percentage inside the 10-yard line? This was actually a longer question, so I'm going to read out the entirety of Hefe's question, his submission. Why isn't more made about the fact that Jim is among the NFL's worst in completion percentage inside the 10-yard line? Part of the reason we settle for field goals is, 1, he lacks mobility, and in the red zone, the field shrinks. 2, he makes poor reads when pressured. And 3, he's more inaccurate than we admit. So what I will say is, I think those 3 points there by Hefe are fair points. But I was not completely aware of this stat. And when I did some research today to try and confirm or refute it, what I actually found were some statistics that pointed the other direction. So that's why, Hefe, I hope that you can refute this or back it up. But here's what I found. This I know to be true. The other, as you suggest here, may be true, but I'm not sure what year you're talking about. Maybe it's over the course of his career, but it certainly wasn't true in 2019. And I don't think it was true in 2021 either. So the research that I turned up today, specifically, the only thing that specifically referenced inside the 10-yard line was looking at 2019. So admittedly, that was Jimmy's best season, right? He was not bad in 2019. In fact, he was leading the league in completions inside the 10 and was sixth in completion percentage inside the 10. So that seems to directly refute what you're talking about here. 2019, Garoppolo led the league with 25 completions inside the 10-yard line. Jared Goff and Aaron Rodgers were second with 23. His completion percentage of 62.5% in that situation was sixth amongst NFL starters. Garoppolo tied Lamar Jackson for the league lead with 16 touchdown passes inside the 10. So he is capable of it. Now, as to where these stats come out that you're talking about, it's possible. But there's also some correlation that Shanahan historically has not been great in the red zone, regardless of who's at quarterback. But that did shift in 2021. The Niners were fourth in the league in the red zone scoring percentage, touchdown only. So again, with Jimmy Garoppolo as their quarterback for 2021, the Niners were fourth in the league in red zone scoring TD percentage. So again, it seems to be contrary evidence to the assertion. Jimmy, though, was middle of the pack in red zone in 2021 completion percentage at 57.9. So basically 58%, which is a drop off from his 62.5% he had in 2019. But he was above Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, and Kyler Murray in completion percentage inside the 20-yard line. So I just couldn't find the stats that backed up your assertion there. But I agree with your three comments about Jimmy. I do think those three critiques are very fair. You said, number one, he lacks mobility, and in the red zone, the field shrinks. I'd say that's true. Number two, he makes poor reads when pressured. Definitely true. Number three, he's more inaccurate than we admit. I will say that's true outside the numbers. I will admit that is true outside the numbers. I think within the numbers, he's a pretty accurate quarterback. Where he feasts, he's quite good at it. All right, I'm coming back to the chat. I always got to come back to the chat. Always addicted to coming back to the chat. Little Beast 8977 on the radio. Little Beastie 8977 on the radio says, at Rob Schuh, love your videos, man. Keep up the good work. Cheers to that. Cheers. Ooh, we didn't get an autofocus? Come on now. We need an autofocus. Got to have the autofocus. Sean 951 Niners sneakerhead here on the channel coming in. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Philip D coming back in at Rob. How does trading back work? What's the point? To accrue additional draft picks. So the Niners right now have 9 draft picks. What they could do is say at the 61st pick, they trade back to 65 and they get another pick in addition, maybe somewhere in the 90s or the 100s, right? And get a 4th round pick to move back just a few slots. There are some easily found conversion charts that exist that will show you draft pick value. And you can give some rough approximations of the value you would get in moving back from 61 to 65 or to 70. And the Niners could pick up an additional draft pick and then use that draft pick later on in the draft to move around, bounce around as they see fit, potentially moving up. Little Beastie saying, at Rob Schuh, I think the Seahawks will take either Kenny Pickett or Carson Strong. Seems reasonable to me. No doubt. Treasure Kaisers coming in at Rob. Hi, Rob. Well, hello. Hello, Treasure. Nice to see you. All right. Alan coming back in at Rob Schuh. Like and subscribe if you like the show as a good football fan. Appreciate that, Alan. Appreciate that. And Dirk with some clarification on the Sneakerhead edition. Dirk says, I think you can get to the Sneakerhead stuff if you hit See Perks, and then you will get redirected to a browser session where you can do it. That is a great call out, Dirk. I appreciate that. Thomas Luttrell at Rob Schuh, favorite number 10 moment. Game winner to Dante flipping Pettis. Game winner to Wilson Jr., 3rd and 16, 2 times against the Ram. Number 10 to Debo, week 18, or the 5-0 start from 2017. I was there for the Dante flipping Pettis one with my buddy who was here this last weekend. He's a diehard. He's my best friend, Mark Hicks. Mark, if you're watching, we were at that game with his older daughter, Heidi, her first football game. It was Steelers-Niners, and that game winner, I lost it. I freaking lost it at the end of that one. That was fantastic. And I was also in Vegas for the Jeff Wilson one, that throw at the end of the game. And I was there with another friend who's a diehard Cardinals fan. And we had a gentleman's wager and some money on the line there. And the loser had to walk up and down the aisle and basically admit that their team was not as good as the others. We had to say some humiliating things about our own team. And I was worried I was about to have to do that. So it's tough to say between the Dante Pettis game winner against Pittsburgh or the game winner to Jeff Wilson Jr. against the Cardinals. I think I've got to go with the one I was there in person. Got to go with the Steelers game. That was a wild freaking game. And yes, that was probably my favorite moment. But all of those are very special. Darren coming in. At Rob, if only we had an offensive line coach as good as Chris is with the defensive line, we could bring in anybody on the cheap. I think we have a decent ability to develop along the offensive line. I mean, Laken Tomlinson was a reclamation project. So that one to me feels like potentially that was, the ability to develop. Avatar, can't wait for these Jimmy Garoppolo talks to stop. Hey, me too. I want the trade to happen. But until it does, unfortunately, he's part of the team, and we got to talk about it. Last one of the previously submitted questions here from Anthony M. coming in saying, what does the hiring of Brian Griese bring to the 49ers, in your opinion? Admittedly, I had a tough time with this because I'm not 100% sold on the Brian Griese addition. I'm just trusting Shanahan. I'm trusting Kyle Shanahan. I think he's earned that trust with his ability to hire the right coaches, develop them as coaches, and then get them hired into other organizations. He has done that quite well throughout his career. And some of that is just like, hey, you come into contact with Kyle Shanahan, your name is automatically on the list of next head coaching hires, right? You just brush elbows with Kyle Shanahan, you're on the list. But some of that is his ability to develop, his ability to pour into these coaches. So what do I think that Brian Griese brings to the table? First and foremost, fresh blood. I do think that's great to bring in a fresh perspective. I thought that was a quality addition of Anthony Lynn and Brian Griese in that regard. Certainly brings NFL experience to the table. That's a plus. He has firsthand experience in a Shanahan system, operating a Shanahan system. That is most definitely a plus. And he was, this may be a little harsh, but he was like a mid-level NFL quarterback that needed to truly master the position to get the most out of himself in order to make up for not being a supremely talented athlete. Oftentimes, that kind of Mac Jones type to a lesser degree are the best types of coaches because they really needed to maximize their own skill set in order to have the same success that a more athletically gifted individual would just be able to do naturally because of that athletic ability. Plus, according to my man Shanahan, my boy is wicked smart. My boy is wicked smart. And yes, I had that line just to use my Boston accent. Pack the cat and have it yad. All right, let's get into your comments to close out this thing. We are here at the end of the show. If you haven't hit the like button, hit it now or forever hold your peace. We suck coming in with the comment at Rob. Do you think we will draft more running backs? I think the Niners always have their eye on late round finds for running backs. 6th round, 7th round, one of those compensatory picks. Maybe an undrafted free agent. My hope for the 49ers is that they are looking to upgrade the third down back. Right now, we have JaMycal Hasty filling out that roster in the running back room. To me, I would like to work to have a competition for JaMycal Hasty. I'm not saying JaMycal Hasty can't win that competition, but I'd like to bring in a 6th, a 7th round pick, or an undrafted free agent to compete with JaMycal Hasty for that last roster spot in the running back room, for that third down back spot. Ricardo Castro coming in at Rob Schuh. Does Lynch have an ace up his sleeve like he did with Trent Williams? If the implication there is around Alex Mack, then I would guess, yes, if they have inside information about Alex Mack retiring, I would guess that they do have an ace up their sleeve. As far as they have their eyes on some interior linemen, maybe at that 61 spot, or even trading up if you're trying to replace Alex Mack. But I don't think Alex Mack is going to retire. I believe, maybe foolishly, that he will be back. And so, no, I don't think he has an ace up his sleeve. I don't think he has an ace to trade Jimmy. If he did, he should have slapped that one down. Raphael 562 Niners coming in with the super chat to say, great show, Rob. Raphael, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Really do. Brandon West at Rob, what finger would you say your head looks like? I don't know. Maybe the middle one? That's directed at you, Brandon. No, I'm kidding. If it's a shot at being bald, I'll take it. Like if it's meant to be an actual shot, then why? I ask why. What did I do to earn an insult? If you thought it was funny, borderline. Joey coming in at Rob. Tabor Pepper, best athlete on the team. I'm a Pepper fan, especially my buddy Pepper will tell you that. Jason Pepper loves the fact that there is a Pepper on the 49ers. Shout out to Jason Pepper. Dirk Pippin's going to like that reference. Must Win Sports coming in at Rob Schuh. Outside of Cole Strange, who are some linemen that you like? I do like Donovan West. He was named earlier. I like Juergens. I like Juergens as well. Those would be three that I've got my eye on. I think Donovan West is out of ASU. Cameron Juergens is another. And then Cole Strange. Bullpup 33. Rob, are we drafting athletes or dogs? If Frank Gore has a say about it, we are drafting dogs. Frank Gore knows how to find them, and that's who we want on this team. We need dogs. We need football players. And that's hopefully what we get in this draft. Man, this was a great mailbag episode. Thank you so much for being here for this past 90 minutes. It has been a fantastic time. I have enjoyed it. Again, on your way out, hit the like button, consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, and let me know in the comments of the video your thoughts, because all that interaction helps me out on YouTube, and I appreciate it. Absolutely appreciate it. Roger Sellers. I like this one coming in. At Rob Schuh, I always tell myself we as fans have to trust the front office, but they sure are making it hard this offseason. I'm not entirely sure that they are. I think we had high expectations, but when you go back and look at the entire picture of a team that is deep to begin the offseason and the contracts that were given to the players that didn't come back, the focus on the areas where we had legitimate needs, I get that it wasn't an exciting offseason, but I'm going to wait and see with this one. I do believe that while it wasn't splashy, it was reasonably solid. And I'm going to wait and see who they sign after May 10th when that compensatory draft pick, deadline happens. Luke Walsh, Ronnie Lott, hit that like button. Hit it hard. You might break that like button if you Ronnie Lott it. Anyway, we have come to the end of the show. This has been fantastic. I will be back on tomorrow night at 5 p.m. with Between Two Beards with Randon McMahon and the rest of the week. I'm going to work in a call-in show for everybody. We got the Sneakerhead call-in show. That's a video call-in show that's only for sneakerheads. That one is on Thursdays. I'm going to bring in a voice-only call-in show for everybody, and I'm doing it this weekend. I'm making it happen. So please, join in on that show. Please do like and subscribe on your way out. And until then, you know the drill. Cheers, faithful.